Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Well, obviously, I noticed you were limping as you came into the room. And I was like, what the heck happened? Then I looked at your sweatshirt. I realized that you sprained your ankle jumping on the bandwagon.
Onto the bandwagon. I had a hustle. Philadelphia is a long drive, 3-hour drive from here. I had to jump onto it and hung on for dear life.
Penn State is the odds-on favorite to win the national championship
Could
again.
even set the record for points. Absolutely.
Penn State, at minimum, has a chance to get 4 national champions, maybe more. To me, the intriguing storyline out of this is whether they can do something that's only happened once in the history of the sport, and that's by Minnesota in 2001, having 10 All-Americans. So we'll find out starting today in Philadelphia, where it's a hot ticket.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
It's a hot ticket, which is great. And I believe this weekend the president's going to show up.
That is the rumor, yes.
So we'll see. I don't care whether you love him or you don't like him or whatever. That's still some significant cred.
It's an indication to where the sport is,
right?
Where the sport is right now.
Well, when he showed up here at when he showed up here at the Jordan Center, I know we were out of town at the time, but when he showed up here at the Jordan Center, the wrestlers were a big part of the presentation.
Yeah.
So, and he talked extensively about the Penn State wrestling program. So, yeah. So we'll see if he actually does show up or not. But the bottom line for Penn State is to win another national title, get as many national champions as possible, and can they become the second team ever to have 10 All-Americans? I know people are wondering about Braden Davis, but this extra time has helped him get healthy because he's been battling injuries all season long. Overall, he is 6-4 against the field, and that's one to watch. And of course, they'll talk about Carter Starace. No offense to Carter Starace, but I hope he's the last person, the only person to win 5 national titles.
You know, and I think,
and the reason I say that is
pandemic,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't need another pandemic.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But I think the funniest part of all with the guys that hold records, they always do the old cliche, records are made to be broken. So proud,
Right.
I think there are a lot of Mark Gastineaus out there in this world that I can almost guarantee you are like, oh, man, whose name did I want in the record book, mine or someone else's?
Right.
But, yeah, absolutely pulling for Starace.
I just don't want anybody else to do it only because not because of him, because I just don't want to have another pandemic year.
I would think deep down Carter Starace probably doesn't want anybody else to do it. He gets number 5.
Yeah. The Celtics have been sold for $6.1 billion. William Chisholm, the managing partner of Symphony Technology Group, will buy the franchise for $6.1 billion. It is the largest sale price for a North American sports franchise, topping what Josh Harris and his group, including Magic Johnson, paid for the Washington Commanders, $6.05 billion. It is way beyond the NBA record. Matt Ishbia, the former Michigan State basketball walk-on, bought the Suns for $4 billion. And of course, the league is pondering expansion, which would drive up the money for everybody.
Absolutely.
So there you go. $6.1 billion for the Celtics, a new high. But they'll have to break the team up because he's out of money now. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's not as if they're a championship contender or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, before we get to the NCAA tournament, I want to get to this story. And that is, did you hear about the Jim Rice story?
I haven't. It can't be any more.
Dude, I mean, do you just walk in and just start?
That's right.
I mean, the sweatshirt's a knockoff from China. I already know that. It's like, come on.
Oh, I bought this sucker local.
Sure you did. Sure you did. By the way, it looks like Rodney Terry's going to be fired at Texas, but we'll get to that in a moment. So here's the Jim Rice story. And to me, this is not a good story for baseball. Jim Rice is somebody that is in the Hall of Fame, just one of the truly great hitters.
Absolutely.
Ever. Just a great, great hitter. In fact, it's always been kind of cool for me that I was at Fenway Park the day he had his first major league hit. It was against the White Sox, and it was a single. I was sitting on the third base side, and it was a single high up the left field wall. But he hit it so hard, he only got a single out of it. He didn't get a double. And I remember on broadcaster would say, we sit down, we talk hitting with Jim Rice. He loves talking hitting. Okay. So, about a week ago, Jim Rice is talking hitting with one of the Red Sox prospects. Okay. All right. And out of nowhere, one of the staffers comes up and tells him no, you don't. Okay? Young player approached him in the batting cage for advice, and Rice didn't hold back. The question revolved around maintaining the proper form in the batter's box, one of those nuanced skills that makes hitting a craft and not just a science. While Dwight Evans in his day, who was also in the outfield with Jim Rice, would often change stances subtly all the time, Rice was pretty steady about it, right? A staffer came over and interrupted Rice's guidance, pointing out that his advice was not on brand with the organization's current approach. Now, the staffer, they have 34 members of the analytics staff on the Red Sox. 34. The person that made this, and it doesn't say who the person is.
Well, yeah, they're not going to tell you who it is.
All right. Said, quite frankly, they pointed out exactly how many hits does he have in his major league career. And, of course, he has none. He didn't play in the major leagues. Jim Rice made a career out of hitting line drives, adapting to pitches, right? And was just one of the truly outstanding hitters. Oh, and by the way, may not have been the greatest fielding left fielder in the history of Fenway Park, but worked his backside off to make himself better. I mean, this guy played back with Carl Yastrzemski, for goodness sakes. Right? Rice feels a hitter should be versatile. They should be able to hit line drives to any field. They should also adapt pitch by pitch. It runs counter to today's preference, hitting sky-high shots, sometimes at the expense of situational hitting. Johnny Pesky used to drill line drive discipline into Jim Rice, a lesson that saw him smash plenty of balls out of the ballpark. I was also at Fenway Park the day he did something for only the fourth time in the history of the ballpark. There is a flagpole at the end of the wall in center field. Only three people previously had hit a ball over that flagpole and out of Fenway Park. That's as far out as you can hit it there. Right? And he hit it, and the guy next to me says, "Where did that go?" And I said, "You would never believe it. I never saw a ball hit that far in my life." It was the fourth time ever somebody hit the ball. Doesn't sound to me, it was a line drive, all right. It was very high. Okay? Let me put it this way. Right? If you can clear a 37-foot wall and a flagpole,
you've hit the ball pretty hard.
You've hit it high.
Yeah.
Rice is not one of those that gives those sanctimonious speeches. He says when he's asked to share insight, he does it. And he respects the official roles of the full-time coaches on the team. Still, being told that his perspective wasn't in tune with the current direction was a sore point. The Red Sox top brass, led by Craig Breslow, offered a diplomatic response about blending tradition with innovation, respecting the institution's history while embracing modern developments. But for Rice, who simply wants to enjoy the camaraderie and the joy of the game, it's clear that the balance between legacy and progress is personal. Rice says this is not going to sour his spring training experience. He says he's not in Florida to ruffle feathers, but to lend his expertise where it's welcome. He says, I'm going to try to help somebody to be better. Remember, the player asked him.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, for goodness sakes, I'd ask him. It looks to me like he knows how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. God rest his soul. If Tony Gwynn were still here and he was standing next to me, I'd ask for some hitting advice.
I mean,
I wouldn't care what the Padres' current approach is.
I mean, that's the equivalent of Sandy Koufax going to a school and a kid says, "Can you show me how to hold a curveball?" And he shows him how he held the curveball. He goes, "Well, that's not what my coach told me. I'm more comfortable throwing it this way." Like, okay, well, then why did you ask him? I mean,
oh, man.
This is one of those stories of what's wrong with baseball. I mean, that's all wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? This guy knows how to hit.
Yeah.
Because guess what? He proved it over and over again. Okay? I mean, Sandy Koufax, this actually did happen to him. I mean, it actually happened to Koufax. Right? Teenager, held up new ball, demonstrating his preferred curveball grip. Koufax gently suggested something a little different for maximum break on the pitch, and he said, "No, that's not the way my coach told me to hold it. That's it. We're done." Okay. Right? But the Red Sox staffer asked Jim Rice to back away from the kid. "Please leave our young hitter alone. That's not the way we teach hitting here. We know better. We want to hit the ball
that line is
in the air
worse.
and hit it hard."
That line's even worse.
Right? He says, it was something I didn't like because I felt I was disrespected. No kidding. Like, hey, we weren't talking to you. We're talking. This is our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't involved.
You're involved.
In it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My guess is the guy that said it to him had no idea who it was.
If it's a young staffer, I can almost guarantee you that was the case.
When he learned of the insulting dust-up involving Jim Rice, Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Palmer sent this message. Here's the deal. If you're a Red Sox organizational hitting instructor, you better know the history of the Red Sox. Rice was one of the most feared hitters in the game. Try to respect someone who didn't talk the talk. He walked the talk. Someone should show that staffer the 9 homers he hit off of me. He says, maybe he'll have a little bit more respect. 34 people in their analytics department. 34.
Not one of them know more about hitting than Jim Rice.
Right.
Not even close.
Right. So there's something called Driveline. So they've hired Driveline is one of these analytics groups that has all the stats on everything. They hired 9 Driveline employees since the winter of 22-23. Right? Now, they're all experts in the game. I mean, in 1978, Jim Rice had 406 total bases. Oh, wait a minute. Would you like to have 406 total bases in a year? Kevin Youkilis said, if some Hall of Famer is talking to a Red Sox player and a Sox staffer thinks one conversation is going to lead to some kid not doing things the right way, then he's got to be really insecure.
Yeah.
They say with Driveline, the pitching stuff is great, but the hitting stuff is a mixed bag. Here are 2 examples of players who went to Driveline in the offseason last year. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Ooh. He says that they didn't have success. I'm not saying it's going to ruin your career. It might be good for somebody, but it also might be horrible. The problem is when they think their way is the only way. How many times have you heard me say that?
Agreed.
Right? That's my biggest problem with analytics. My biggest problem with analytics, it is a way to win. But there are multiple ways to win.
Absolutely.
They take tremendous offense because they think it's the only way to win. All right? And I can tell you with 100% certainty, they are absolutely wrong.
Wrong. 100% wrong.
Okay? Because there are multiple ways to win.
Yeah.
There are also multiple ways to hit.
Yeah. And you look at life in general. A student struggles with an instructor. It's the way it is. Somebody else tells them a different style and approach to how to approach the whatever project they're doing. And suddenly it clicks. That's part of life, too.
I know.
Completely part of life. And
Yep.
It's where you get second and third opinions, and it's where you get help. And that's why in this world, and education even, there's tutors, there's 150 other things, because you may not understand what somebody is telling you.
Right.
That's unbelievable that an organization like the Boston Red Sox, and look, I'm not going to name organizations. I would expect this from other organizations. I would not expect it from one like the Boston Red Sox.
Well, now Jim Cott. Jim Cott won 283 games in his career. He won a World Series game against the Dodgers. In fact, I think he beat Koufax in Game 2 of the 65 World
65,
Series.
yeah.
Right? He is listed as a special assistant in the Twins front office. Okay. With legendary players, you do that. That's the title they usually get. He says, the baseball people are gone. I don't go in the clubhouse anymore, nor to spring training, nor get a uniform. I feel like a stranger in the Twins clubhouse, except for a few players I know well, and it became an awkward feeling. It's a sad feeling to know that you would have a lot to offer, but they totally ignore you, and you often feel disrespected. Jim Palmer said, the reality is they don't care what former players, even Hall of Famers, think. Their interpretation of the game of baseball has passed us by. Almost all teams are run by analytical people and people that never, ever played. Yep.
100% right on.
Okay. Analytics absolutely has a place. There's no question. It absolutely has a place. And it's something that you need to take a long, hard look at all the time, just to make sure.
Exactly. Not the be all end all.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, it's not the be-all, end-all, but at the same time, you would be foolish not
Correct.
to look at analytics. Okay? You'd be foolish not to. And because it is an important part of what's going on in sports. But, and I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. Okay? It's the people who have great instinct that have the ability to say, you know what, analytics says we got to do this here. You know what, I was thinking the same thing. Let's go. Right? Or, no, that's not what I want to do here. I want to do this. Doesn't mean it's going to work. But, yeah. All right. NCAA basketball tournament. 13-point lead last night, 41-28, Texas over Xavier. Now, remember, Xavier is playing a home game. I mean, the Xavier campus in Cincinnati is a mere 45 minutes away from Dayton. Well, crowd starts going crazy, nuts, the whole thing. And Xavier, to his credit, climbs back in the game. They win the game last night. Win the game. Right? Which, according to Herm Edwards, is the object.
That's you play to win the game. You're darn right.
You play to win the game. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. So, game's over. Xavier wins. They get Illinois next in Milwaukee, I believe. Okay. Texas is going to fire Rodney Terry. Now, what they're going to do with this job, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. There are a lot of interesting openings right now. Indiana's now filled with Darian DeVries, but Iowa's open. Mm-hmm. Minnesota's open.
Yep.
Villanova's open. Now Texas is open. You make the tournament, and it's not good enough. And they're going to move on from them. Now, I'm not,
The flip side, you make a run in the tournament, you are a candidate for those positions.
Yeah. So I don't know what is going to, look, I've only been around Rodney Terry once in my entire career because Penn State played Texas 2 years ago. So I don't know the guy. I don't really know how they operate there. None of that. But they're going to make a move. And we'll wait and see how it pans out. But you make the tournament, and you had to fight your way to get there. The Texas A&M win in the SEC tournament was huge. It's your first year in the SEC. It's your first year. You want to know what that means when it's your first year in a conference? You have to learn everybody in the opposing teams.
Mm-hmm.
You may have played a couple of those teams along the way, right? But you've been preparing since you took the job, and he was there all told 13 years at Texas. A lot of your preparation's been for Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. Your preparation didn't include Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky. Like that's why I'll never forget Mark Turgeon brings Maryland into the Big Ten. And I want to say they won the regular season conference title or they were second. I think they were second. First year they were second. I voted him Coach of the Year, and somebody said, why'd you vote him Coach of the Year? I can't remember. It may have been Izzo, and Michigan State may have won it. They said, why'd you vote for him? I said, because he had to come in here and he had to learn 13 new opponents. And this is before NIL and transfer portals, okay? Said he had to come in and learn 13 new opponents. I said, that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
All right? I said everybody else had to learn him, but they had to learn a team. In fact, in that case, they had to learn two teams. They had to learn Rutgers and they had to learn Maryland. I said they had to learn all 13 of them. I said, that's a lot to get your team ready when you don't have a gauge on video as to whether a guy's better, worse, whatever, from year to year. And that's what Porter Moser had to do at Oklahoma. That's what Rodney Terry had to do at Texas. That's what Eric Musselman had to do at USC, what Mick Cronin had to do at UCLA, what Dana Altman had to do at Oregon, and Danny Sprinkle had to do at Washington. Yeah. It's not easy to learn all new people. But what do I know? Okay, so, get yourself together, will you?
I'll tell you.
Right, God. Take some Alka-Seltzer or something. All right. All right. So here is today's lineup with the networks they're on. The opener is at 12:15. Creighton against Louisville. It's on CBS. High Point, alma mater of Tubby Smith, takes on Purdue at 12:40. It is on True TV. Later in the show, we're going to quiz Jason to see whether he knows any of the True TV shows or not. They did that on, I didn't see it, but I was told about it. I didn't see it, I was told about it.
That may be a flunk with flying colors.
They did, I guess on Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center show, they did a quiz as to whether this was a real True TV show or not, and they had a whole list. And, some were real and some weren't. Montana, Wisconsin's at 1:30. TNT. The first number 1 seed to play will be Houston. They'll take on Southern Illinois Edwardsville. 2 o'clock on TBS. Alabama State, winner over St. Francis, will take on Auburn at 2:50 on CBS. McNeese State, with the first coach in the history of the NCAA tournament to openly admit he's going to go someplace else when the tournament's over with. Will Wade, there's really only one way to go. It's the Will Wade way or the highway. He's going to go to NC State.
Well, I give him credit. The job was open. It may not have been open when the tournament was over, so
okay.
Not as if he has anything to focus on other than taking a job.
Which means year in and year out, he's going to have to face Clemson anyway. So let's play him today and get a head start on the ACC job at 3:15 on True TV. VCU, BYU in the Alphabet Bowl. 4:05 on TNT. Georgia, Gonzaga, 4:35, TBS. 6:50. Now we get to the night action. 6:50 on TNT. Wofford against Tennessee. 7:10 on CBS tonight. Arkansas against Kansas. 7:10 CBS. 7:25 tonight. You can make a lot of academic jokes here, but we won't. Yale against Texas A&M. 7:25
you were going with that one.
On TBS. There's nothing like going to the Drake. Well, Drake takes on Missouri, 7:35 on True TV. Utah State, UCLA, 9:25 on TNT. Omaha, St. John's, CBS, 9:45. 10 o'clock tonight, TBS. San Diego against Michigan. UC San Diego against Michigan, 10 o'clock TBS. And the last game of the day at 10:10 tonight on True TV. Last time I watched True TV was 365 days ago. UNC Wilmington against Texas Tech. Although, if you notice, True TV is also carrying the NHL. They're carrying some of the TNT stuff. So there you go. There's your NCAA tournament for today. There's this story. The new NCAA tournament contract for women's basketball kicks in this year. So this year, okay, they get charter flights, hotel accommodations, lots of swag. And women's teams are getting an individual share of the profits. Okay? It should be this way. We should be able to fly charter. True, said Trina Patterson, the head coach at UNC Greensboro. He said, we're all playing in the same March Madness. The treatment for the men and the women should be equal. We get a unit. That is correct. The unit is money that is paid to conferences when one of the teams appears in the NCAA tournament. The formula and definition of a unit can be complicated, but the bottom line is conferences will receive $113,000 for each one of the women's teams that plays in the tournament. Okay. So, when you go through the story, once again, there's this is great, this is great, this is great, but it's not realistic.
Right.
That's good. But the contract is for $65 million.
Right.
Okay. Well, when you divide it up like that, it makes a dent.
Yeah.
Okay. We can talk TV ratings all we want. The men's tournament is bringing in $1 billion. It's $935 million richer. That's not in this story. I'm just being realistic. If I want to pay for my tennis program, I need that tournament.
That tournament, you betcha.
Okay. This offsets losses, which is fine. You need whatever you can get to offset losses. I mean, this does offset losses. Not completely. With everything Iowa accomplished last year. Caitlin Clark, the buzz, everything happened, right?
Yep.
They lost money. Well, that's impossible. Oh, no, it's very possible. They lost money. Okay? That's called the real world. Okay? Now, is this an improvement? Absolutely it's an improvement. Should they be on charters? Absolutely. Should they be staying in nice hotels? Absolutely they should be.
Sure.
It's a national championship. Absolutely. That's all great. More money? Great. But it's more money than what they had before. And it's a step, but it doesn't make that big a difference in an athletic department. But it's a step. I'm just being realistic here. Okay? I'm trying, in other words, I'm trying to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's nice. It helps because everything helps. But I'm just telling you what the truth is.
Yeah, and that's where you got to look, and you get to the professional level. The WNBA looking at locking out. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Oh,
you're looking at
that. I saw. Was it Angel Reese that said that?
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're going to go on strike? Okay. One thing when you go on strike is people have to notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have 20 students in my class. And this dealt with the Major League Baseball contract, so they really had nothing to do with, it didn't have a lot to do with the WNBA. And I said, Major League Baseball, I said, is going to sever its relationship with ESPN. I said, or better yet, ESPN severing its relationship with Major League Baseball. I said $550 million a year. And I said something the effect of ESPN has had a habit over the years that if they don't carry you, your coverage starts to minimize. The NHL is a great example. And then I said a possible beneficiary of ESPN not carrying Major League Baseball starting in 2026, I said it could be beneficial to the WNBA. Right? So I looked at the class and said, now how many of you, watch the WNBA? Now, these are 18 to 23s. These are all the people that all these stories claim they've got them hooked.
Yeah.
They're all not a single hand went up.
Not a single one.
Zero. Not one hand went up.
Now, you say how many watch the NBA, there's going to be hands that go up.
Oh, sure, of course there are. Yeah.
Because they reach that demographic, which is hard to reach.
Yeah.
And, that's absolutely. Yeah,
and again, I didn't ask the question because I expected that answer. That's not the answer I expected.
No.
The answer I expected, I probably thought
2 or 3.
I was going to say a third.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got 20 people in the class, maybe 6, 7, right? I figure a third would put their hands up because it's not all guys in there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I sat there and went. I looked at everybody. I said, "Really?" And I said, everybody said, "No, they have no interest in it." Right?
Yeah.
So then I went other sports. NFL, almost every hand went up. Baseball, most hands went up. Hockey, most hands went up. Talk about the NHL, NBA, every hand went up. Right. College football, every hand went up. College basketball, 2/3 went up. Right. But and then we came to that, not a single hand went up. Like, really? Yeah. As I said, I expected a third. I got 0. And you want to go on strike? Whose hand are you forcing here?
Yeah.
If I'm the owners, I'm sitting there going, okay.
Yeah. And you have, you can make the argument, what little momentum you've had in years to try and build that audience.
Yep.
And you're going to take that away.
Yep.
Go back to the strike of Major League Baseball in 1994. Have they fully recovered from that yet?
No.
I don't think so.
Nope.
And we're talking 31 years.
Nope.
And that's Major League Baseball.
Yep.
That's a sport that people watched and sold out games and took families to games.
Mm-hmm.
The WNBA is not at that level yet. Or even close.
I mean, they're losing 20 to 25 million a year.
Yeah.
Well,
and that takes nothing away from the athletes. Great athletes. I'm not at all saying a word about the athletes.
Cameron Brink has nothing to do with...
No, the star talent that league has is as good as it's had.
Right.
But it's got to get bigger. It's got to get... You still have a long way to go with growth, and you're going to stunt that growth with the strike.
Yeah. That's if they... That's if they
do.
That's if they do. Okay. Yeah. Crazy. It's just, sit back and I appreciate the fact that you think you have value.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But you have to be realistic about where you are. And it's like, okay. Like we were talking about Anderson being fired as the head coach at Iona after 2 years. Because they didn't get to the NCAA tournament. They didn't win the conference tournament. Would they win 20-something games, something like that? And I said to you, I've got 3 words for their athletic director. Okay? You are Iona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
There's too many people that don't know who they are. They don't know who they are.
100%.
And they don't know where they fit into the grand scheme of things. And they don't know how long it takes sometimes to get yourself where you're really in the national consciousness. So it is.
And you're also talking about, you go back to the WNBA, you're looking at somebody that made those comments that's played one season in that league. Not somebody who has been through the up and down and everything else, like the Diana Taurasi of the world or Sue Bird.
Mm-hmm. Now, look, I mean, do they want them to make more money than they do? Of course they do. Absolutely, of course they do. But it's, but it takes time, and
Takes time.
But there's another part to this that people aren't talking about. How much money can the networks pay out?
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some number where...
Yeah, you finally cut it off.
Well, you look at it and go, you know what? We can't make the money back.
Yeah, it's great to have, but we don't. Right? Yeah, it's.
I mean, can I make the money back? The key is, you pay for the NFL and you're selling the NFL left and right. You're going to make money.
You're making money back easily. It sells itself.
They must feel strongly that the Big Ten is making the money back. Talk about the TV partners, the NBC, CBS, and Fox are making the money back. I mean, that's the reason you bid for it. And there has to be some area where finally there's, like, you're approaching the ceiling here. And the other part is, and this is where I think that there are people involved in media are making a gigantic mistake on the streaming end of it. A huge mistake on the streaming end of it. Why? Because I don't think you can make the money back on streaming packages. They are losing money hand over fist.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I have no problem with watching things on streaming. I mean, if I ever watched any, I watch Amazon Prime's Thursday Night Football package all the time, which, by the way, I mean, they're making the money back.
Yeah.
I think it's $1 billion deal, right?
Yeah.
$1 billion per year, I think. And I guess they're getting the money back. Well, that's the entire key. Can you make the money back? So I have no problem watching things on streaming, right? But if you're going to base your TV packages on the streaming part of it, I don't know. I think that is, you need to tread lightly on that. Streaming to me is a supplement that enhances your TV network brand, and you need to have streaming. You absolutely need to have it.
Yeah.
And so CBS is Paramount Plus. Great supplement. You're on the road. Well, okay, let's talk about somebody who's actually technology savvy.
That's accurate.
It's watching you try to turn your phone on is really actually entertainment unto itself. But you're on the road and you want to watch what's going on, and you have a streaming package, and you can pick up. So Penn State's playing USC on CBS.
Yeah,
you could go to Paramount Plus, and you can watch the broadcast. NBC,
Peacock,
Peacock do the same thing. It's the exclusivity of it that is a problem.
Yes.
When you exclusively go to streaming, and I go back to the Chiefs-Dolphins game a year ago, you can put out all the disingenuous press releases you want about record number of streaming, 23 million. Is it a fact? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it disingenuous? Yeah.
Yep.
Because guess what? You probably would have had $45 million on a Saturday night to see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs take on the Miami Dolphins in 4-degree weather in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. Hey, back to even last year, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
Steelers and Ravens.
On Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix. Yeah, that's another one where
I don't know what the number was. I never did see the number.
I didn't see the number either, but it's going to be a lot lower than.
Hey, so in other words, and then my point was, so in other words, you're bragging that you cut off 50% of the audience?
Yeah.
Right.
Christmas Day, same thing.
Over here in the back, I said, isn't our goal as a league to be seen by the most people possible? I'm just asking here.
Yeah, no question.
No
doubt about it.
Let me look that up. I never did see that. Netflix.
Yeah.
Christmas Day at the Lord's house. That's your home, not the Lord. Christmas Day NFL Netflix. Christmas Day NFL games. They're going to do it again, by the way, in the next 2 years. You know that.
Yeah.
It's $75 million a game, by the way. Let's see. Okay.
$30 million on the Chiefs, Steelers. 31.3 on the Ravens, Texans.
Right. Then you probably would have got $50 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Easily.
Like, you got to be kidding me. So you looked at the nation and said, "Nah, this is the way we ought to do it." Really? Yeah, they said a streaming record. But again, it's a streaming record. It's not a viewing record. It's a streaming network. Well, that's fine. I mean, that's, they're going to have 2 more games this year and 2 more the year after.
Yeah. And, Steelers and Ravens was what? The playoff game was what? Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
It was definitely streaming only.
Yeah.
It's another one where.
But at least you put it on a streaming platform that people are used to watching.
Yeah, absolutely. But
because the NFL's on Thursday Night Football all the time.
Yeah, and the same with Peacock, but it's still.
No, Peacock is not a.
Well, it's not
NBC,
streaming. It's
NBC is.
NBC with Peacock,
okay?
Absolutely.
Okay,
but
Amazon Prime is streaming exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But it's still. I would not put the biggest game of the weekend on streaming only.
No.
I would not do it. It's hurting audience without question. I agree with you. And you even take the approach. I saw NBC now is taking the approach where they're offering their local channels on Peacock for a fee a month, which is the right way to go about it. You have, in your local markets, you have that channel on television, and you have the possibility option of being on streaming only.
But I'm sitting in Montana. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. I live in Montana now, and I'm being told I have to get a streaming service?
Yeah.
Like, what? It's Christmas.
Not to mention you have Sunday ticket subscription that costs who knows how much anymore. Yeah.
So I want to watch my favorite team against my arch rival, the Steelers and the Ravens, and I have to buy a streaming service to do it?
Got to buy a streaming service to do it. Even if you have Sunday ticket not included on it, got to pay extra. Ridiculous.
Again,
completely
I thought
ridiculous.
The idea was to get as many eyeballs as possible on your product. This runs counter to that. When you're cutting off part of the country to do it because we think this is monetarily the best thing to do, over here in the back, you're already making a boatload of money. A boatload of money.
Yeah. College football has done the same.
Now, I would stream the Jerry Valeri show if we could cut off half that audience.
College football, for the most part, has done the same, but they've not put the biggest Penn State and Ohio State's not on Peacock.
No, but Penn State's whiteout game
against
with Washington was.
Yeah.
Again, there's got to be a different mindset.
Yeah.
In the conference office about what's going on.
Absolutely.
With the whiteout game at Beaver Stadium. It's getting a little ridiculous here.
Yeah.
Right? Don't start telling me about all the great traditions of the Big Ten. Oh, the traditions of the Big Ten. Well, you got one right there, and you keep shoving it around all over the place like it's no big deal. Right?
Very big deal. Yeah.
All right? I mean, okay? Why don't you do what the fans want to do?
Yeah.
Why don't you try that out?
Yeah, they pay quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Including the salaries of quite a few people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that, I mean, again, the traditions of the Big Ten. Da, 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 da. I was like, okay, they're playing for Paul Bunyan's axe. Yippee. Okay, they're playing for the Little Brown Jug. Gee, I think Michigan wins that every year.
Yeah.
How about the whiteout game where the atmosphere comes right through the TV set?
Yeah.
No, I think we'll put that on Peacock. Really? Exactly. Peacock, really?
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do with one of the great, it may be recent, but one of the great Big Ten traditions that resonates with so many people that it's copied all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done red outs, orange outs, brown outs, blackouts.
Yep.
Maze outs.
Yeah.
I've done all sorts of orange outs. I remember the Auburn people who says, "What do you think about an orange out?" I said, "Look, I gave the same answer. I said, I've done this. I said, no offense.
Nothing compares.
I said, I'm all done with outs. I really could care less.
No.
I said, the white out, I said, there's only one of those.
No.
There's one white out. That's it.
Yeah.
I said, I think it's great you guys are doing something. I think it's great for your fans. I said, but there's only one white out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the unfortunate part, like the nature of the beast we have now is is dealing with the TV networks. And
they pay.
They pay. Exactly. They pay big money. The school, most people understand this, has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with what network the game ends up on.
Yep.
It really doesn't. They don't set the time of the game either.
No.
So you should not be calling Penn State Athletics on a 6-day window and saying shame on you. They don't have anything to do with it.
No. Cale Sanderson and I were talking about this last week.
Yeah.
And
it's a disgrace, but it's not the schools.
We were talking about the West Coast schools being in, and of course, Cale would love to see one of those schools, and I think maybe preferably USC.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking you were talking about. Yep.
Pick up wrestling.
Yep.
Because it would be great for the sport. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, that would be great for the sport because that is a brand name that you'd love to see have wrestling. And he looked at me and says, yeah, Steve, he says, but the travel. And I said, yeah, the travel. And I looked at Cale and I said, on a Tuesday night, Penn State played at USC at 9 o'clock Eastern time. I said, we were at LAX, got on a plane, and got back to State College at 6:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. And then I looked at Cale, I said, but always remember, Cale, it's all about the kids. Right? And that is, by the way, that's a conference and NCAA thing. It's not local. It's not James Franklin.
Nope.
It's not Mike Rhodes.
Nope.
It's not Ryan Day. It's not Jake Diebler. It's whatever. They all care, right? The administrators care. The coaches care. The whole thing. It's the people in the conference office and the NCAA. It's all about the cash.
Absolutely, 100%.
Bruce Pearl was asked about the SEC's rise in basketball. Usually the SEC would get 2, maybe a great year was 4 into the NCAA. Of course, this year they have 14. Texas is now out. And Bruce Pearl was asked about, he said, the difference between the SEC this year and why there was such a great separation top to bottom was the commitment in NIL and investing in our student athletes. Pearl says it isn't just NIL. Pearl cited an improvement in coaching hires, staff resources that dates to former SEC Commissioner Mike Slive and has continued with Greg Sankey. I'll tell you the other part that there was they brought in Mike Tranghese as a consultant. And, of course, he was along with Dave Gavitt, was one of the architects, and then eventually himself became Gavitt's successor as the Big East commissioner. Rick Burns said, he says, I haven't coached against any bad coaches. I really haven't. I've coached against coaches that haven't had the same resources along the way. Sometimes you can win some of the time like that, but not overall at the level that you want to be able to sustain it. And again, it's all about investment in the sport, right? Now, every sport will talk about investment in the sport, but there are only two sports on the college level that have the investment by TV networks that make the financial difference. Okay, Pearl said, let's just say Louisville and Duke, for example, in the ACC. Those two programs have been consistently well supported. They've got great history. So when it comes to the NIL, they're going to be invested. Not everybody in the ACC invested like those two schools. Right? And Mick Cronin of UCLA, by the way, I would like to point out he's never shy to speak his mind. Oh, no. Have you ever met Cronin?
I have never met Cronin.
You'd really like him. You really would like him. I mean, is he blunt? Sure, he's blunt, but I mean, I like him. I mean, he says, Cronin said, quote, it's like some agent tells me somebody else offered you $1 million. Well, he's probably lying. He's just trying to drive the price up. Not wrong. And nobody wants to admit what they spent on their team, right? Nobody wants to admit it. They want to act like they did a great job recruiting. Okay.
Especially when that team is not doing well. Especially not going to admit how much they spent.
All right. The guy with the best players usually wins, and the team with the most money has the chance to get the best players. They don't always do that, but that's just the era we are in. I will give you an example. There was a player last year in the Big Ten. He ended up going to another school in the Big 12. I'm going to leave names out of it for the moment. Okay? The report was he got $2 million. $2 million. Now, is the school happy the $2 million number was put out there? Absolutely. Is the player happy the $2 million number was put out there? Absolutely. Is the agent thrilled beyond words the $2 million was put out there? Absolutely. He got $800,000. And sometimes NIL investment doesn't always work out.
That's right.
Okay? Yes, Miami got to the Final Four 2 years ago. Nigel Pack was on a 2-year deal, $400,000 plus a car. Where did Miami finish last year? All right? And Miami doesn't have Jim Larinaga any longer. And John Ruiz has been throwing money into that program. By the way, Keith Urgo was let go at Fordham today. So, man. So, hard business. All right. But that was a big show for you. I mean, I know you think that sweatshirt was made in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Right? That's Canton. It's near Shanghai.
Shanghai.
How much did you pay for that thing?
I do not remember. I believe I shopped local for it, though, I will say.
Yeah, you were sitting in your office online. I mean, really. Shop local. You want to get your crutches?
I think so. Gonna need them.
Because You sprained that thing pretty good when you jumped on that Penn State wrestling bandwagon. I'll tell you.
They were flying. I know Philadelphia's 3 hours away, but my goodness, they were flying.
Golly.
Cleveland next year, by the way, for the wrestling championships. A lot of folks in this area are probably pretty happy.
Yes.
Driving distance for the next two.
Nope, everything's good. All right. Back tomorrow. We'll take a look at today's wrestling tournament action, and we'll take a look at today's basketball tournament action and then preview what's coming.